All right, let's just start with this. I think this has already happened. This is Revelations 12, and it's talking about a great sign in the heavens. Appeared a great wonder in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun. She was clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, so she's big. And upon her head a crown of 12 stars. She was crying out, travailing in birth, and about to give birth, when a great red dragon showed up to eat the baby. Now, I am going to tell you why I think this has already happened. I'm going to show the physical evidence to support exactly what I'm saying. Okay, my friends, this is where the rubber meets the road. All of my research has led me to accept the fact that the ancient Greek myth, specifically Hesiod and Apollodorus, has to at least be reconsidered. Now, this is the theogony written by Hesiod around 800 BC. That's not that long ago. And he's going to talk about the beginning of everything all the way up till his time. Now, this is the summary of the theogony. And again, this is by Lit Charts from the creator of SparkNotes, Something Better, Theogony by Hesiod. Now, again, 800 BC. And, well, I'll just read it to you what he has to say, because it summarizes it pretty good. The theogony details the genealogy of ancient Greek gods. So this is their history of who was born when and so forth. All the way from the beginning of the universe through the Olympian gods and various monsters and heroes that descended from all of these crazy creatures. Now, the poem, which they all call a poem, it's literally a book, begins with an invocation to the muses, which they typical of epic poetry at that particular time, but with a twist to it. Hesiod claims the muses, which are the daughters of Zeus, the muses themselves, once descended to visit him and taught him fine singing. Now, Hesiod was on Mount Hermon, I think. I can't remember. He's on one of those mountains over there, and he was tending his sheep. And the muses just popped off of them. And they said Hesiod then describes the origins of the muses and describes their benefits to men who gain their favor, including good judgment, beautiful speech, and reverence from their peers. Now, the poem goes on to describe the beginning of the universe, from the chasm and earth came into being, followed by Tartara and Eros. Now, Eros is to act as the implicit guiding force between much of the rest of the poem, which focuses on successive generations of gods and goddesses being conceived and born, primarily by earth. Now, heaven is born from earth. Heaven was born from the earth, says Hesiod, and many more divine beings are born from their union, the union of heaven and earth. So earth gave birth to heaven. Now heaven and earth themselves are having sex and having their union, including their son Kronos. Now heaven, wary of the threat his new children might pose against his dominance. So heaven was worried the kids were going to take over. He locks them with their mother earth in a cave, visiting only at night when he is desirous of love. So he comes to have sex with the earth, basically. Earth and Kronos soon hatch a plan to overthrow this cruel heaven creature that's coming down to have sex. Earth crafts an adamantine sickle, a curved sword-like weapon with which to do the job. And this is not going to be pretty. Next time heaven visits to have sex, Kronos ambushes him and castrates him with the sickle, cuts his testicles off. effectively ending his reign over the gods and assuming the role of king of the gods in his stead. All right, so he takes over now. So Kronos now is top dog. The genealogy of the gods continues, charting the births of numerous gods and goddesses, nymphs, heroes, monsters. Hesiod also includes various myths such as Medusa and Hercules that is, as well as a lengthy description of Hecate, who is especially involved in human affairs and generous toward her worshippers. Now, this really gets wild, and Apollodorus wrote a summation, basically, of the history of the world, and it's fairly easy to read, and it's straightforward, but it's very crazy, and it's all about Zeus and Kronos and Rhena and the earth giving birth, and Prometheus, and all of these things, Pandora, and you know, it appears to me to be true. Zeus and Tartarus, the Olympians, the Titans, monsters, dragons, Typhon. Whew. All right, let's make sure you understand this. Heaven was born from earth, and then they became lovers, and Kronos became the one that had to castrate his father. So now Kronos is in command of everything, and he's afraid that he will be overtaken by his children. So he swallows the children every time his wife gives birth. I'm going to read you the summary, and then I'm going to read you the paragraphs in Apollodorus that relate to this. Now, it says, the poem returns to detailing the children born to Kronos and Rhea. So Rhea's his wife, Kronos is the new commander-in-chief. All right, so Kronos is wary of the fate of his father, so Kronos swallows each of the children back into himself once they're born, having learned from earth and heaven that he would one day be defeated by his own children. There's a prophecy that said you're going to be defeated by your own children. So he swallowed them. Rhea, however, bore Zeus in a secret cave and gave him to earth to raise, while tricking Kronos into swallowing a disguised stone in Zeus's place. So she gave him something and pretended it was the baby. He swallowed it, so he's happy, and the baby was hidden in this cave. Once he matured, Zeus too tricked his father, forcing Kronos to spit back up all the children. Even the rock came back up that he swallowed. And so they took over and got rid of Kronos. So now Zeus is in control. All right, this is where it gets interesting. I think Revelations was written about this specific episode. This is Revelations 12. There appeared a great wonder in the heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pained to be delivered. She's about ready to deliver this baby. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born, which is what Kronos was doing, was eating the babies. Now, he drew 3rd part of the stars of heaven. The stars of heaven were the angels. There was 200 out of the 600 that went bad. That's 1/3. So I'm assuming this is the leader of the bad angels. And he was ready to eat the baby when it was born. However, she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. All right, so she tricked him, and the child was not devoured, and was brought up to God and his throne, and would rule with a rod of iron. Now that doesn't sound like Jesus. I don't know though. But she said she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And this child appeared to be Zeus to me. The woman fled into the wilderness. She's hiding out, where she hath a place prepared of God, that she could feed her. He would feed her there 1,260 days. And there was a war in heaven. Now this is where Michael is fighting Typhon, I believe. There was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, Typhon, and the dragon fought and his angels. And prevailed they did not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. So they're fighting in heaven. But they could shrink themselves. I'm going to show you Ovid in a second. The great dragon was cast out, the old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world, was cast out into the earth. He's laying in the desert. And his angels were cast out with him. So all the 200 came down to earth, all slammed down to earth. I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation, strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. I really don't understand this accusing thing, but they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives until death. They were so devoted that they would be burnt at the stake, that type of thing. And they overcame. I guess in a new life you're going to be seen as a hero. I don't know. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. So the heavens rejoice. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. The devil has come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he has but a short time. Things are getting ready to wrap up. When the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. So she's hiding out from him after giving birth to Zeus, it sounds to me. Now, the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And earth helped the woman, and earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And I can show you that happened with Typhon. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now the dragon was killed, basically, his body. So he wants to cause trouble with humanity, it sounds like to me. But this part about the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood, well, it was venom after the woman, who was the fish, is the way I can see it, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. And earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And I can see that in Typhon. I'll show you. I can see it. All right, this is about as serious as it gets, and I am making no judgments, and I'm not stating anything one way or the other. I'm just showing you what it says in these ancient texts and what I have found. This was when the red dragon was going to eat the baby, and he got thrown out of heaven, because there was a war in heaven. He got thrown out of heaven, and he was upset with the woman. So the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood, which was really toxin. The earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. I say the dragon was killed at this time, and the woman's body, both bodies were killed. But both were gods. Gods don't die. Something happened to their essence. And apparently the dragon's essence is going to make war with the remnant of her seed, which are the people on earth, which was the woman, I guess. All right, if you haven't been paying attention, or you haven't been here before, this is Typhon. He's in the desert. This is the flood of stuff he spit out at the woman. And here he is without being outlined. There's his head, there's his throat, his dragon scaled throat goes all the way down, and it's cut right there. And he's on the maps in the ancient 1375 Atlas shows him laying in the desert exactly where he is with his throat cut. And Apollodorus describes him identical to what you see right here. No difference whatsoever. Now, let's look at Google Earth and see what happened, how the Earth sucked up this flood. So here's Typhon, and he runs the whole, he's 1,100 miles all the way to here. And he's on ancient maps, and he's described exactly this way in Apollodorus. And he spit all this stuff out at the fish, who is the woman. And the earth literally tried to suck up all this stuff. Some of it hit the fish, and the earth didn't get it all. But guess where the earth took it in? Let's look at the spit first. Here's his throat. You see all the dragon's scaled throat here? All the way up. All right, so again, this is his dragon scaled throat. These are all dragon scales running all the way down his throat. That's the throat. All the way down. And then it's cut right down here. Slashed right across there. And that's exactly where it is in the ancient maps. It shows this exact cut. You see this? This is the Red Sea. This is Typhon. There's his flared tail right at the end. All the way down across here, and there's the cut in his throat. That's all the way across North Africa, precisely where he is. And there's the cut across his throat. All right, and this is his whole dragon-scaled body to his fluted tail. And there's the Red Sea. Now, everybody asks for this map. That's the name. I don't know where you're going to get it from, because I lost how to get it. But if you can search, maybe you can find it. All right, so we know we've got a dragon tail way out here flared, and all the way down here a throat cut, the dragon running the whole distance. Well, that's exactly what we got here. There's his throat cut right here. That's his throat cut, and he's bleeding out in the desert. That's why he's dead. Now, he's spitting all this stuff out from his head. And his tail goes all the way across. This is his body with the two thighs coming down, and this is his tail runs out, and you see it out here? This is where it's all flared out. This is his tail runs straight out, you see? Coming all the way here. You see the dragon scales here? And this is blood, you know, what bodily fluids, I don't know. He's got blood, I think, just about similar to all creatures. And these are the scales here on his tail. And this is a depression, and all that blood has puddled there and is running out. And the same thing over here. He had a very long tail, and at the very end it flared out, and I believe it was feathered. And I believe that because of the green. And the green in feathers makes things grow, feathers makes things grow very green. And it does look like feathers to me. Excuse me. You see that? They look very much like feathers. And things are growing very green out here, so I'm going with feathers. All right, so that's his flared, feathered tip tail here. Again, it's right on the map. We just saw it right on the map. Now, what is he doing? He's spitting stuff out. This river running out of his throat to come down, and the earth opened her throat to absorb that stuff. Watch this. This plume, this is just crazy. This is the nastiest stuff you're ever going to see. Coming directly out of his beard, actually. You see this beard right here? Take your time and look at it. I'm going to let it settle in. This particular Google version is very, very slow. Maybe it's my computer, but it does take a very long time. But it is quite detailed. All right, we're coming in now. We're coming in for a landing. All right, you see this stuff? This was all spit out from that beard, and it is as noxious as it can possibly get. Now, you see it coming down here? And it mixes with something else. And this green is what we're going to see where it attacked the fish. And the earth opened up her mouth to try to save the fish. Now, this is all spit down, coming down at the fish. All right, we saw the fish. You saw the fish here. That's the fish. All right, so he was wroth with the fish, with the woman. Apparently this is the woman. And he spit all this down, and it flooded down. Now, the earth opened her mouth right over here. This stuff here is not like running this way. It's running that way. It's being sucked off of here. And these are like little suckers that are coming down to suck up all that bad stuff and bring it and dump it in here and then detoxify it right over here. You see this? This is where it's being detoxified. All right, let's take it slow. All right, I'm just going to point it out as it sits. This is Typhon's head. His neck runs right down here. This is just all blood running off, so it means nothing from here down. Up here is Typhon. There's his red flared eye, and he's spitting the stuff from his beard. It's coming down to get the fish. Now the earth is trying to intervene, sending out these tentacles, basically, like little vacuum cleaners to suck this up. Normally you see these things running down to somewhere else. Well, that is the case, because it's coming up here to suck it up, and it's bringing it over to here. Now, watch what happens here. All these little filtration things are grabbing a hold of all of that nasty stuff and bringing it together or back out. So it's keeping it from hitting it with full fury. And these are all suckers sucking it back up. You see it sucking it back up, all the way from here. All the way right down to the fish. But the fish has already been invaded to its back, just a small degree. But all of this stuff is coming to suck it back that way. It's not pushing it this way, it's sucking it back that way. And where is it going when it sucks it back? It's bringing it back, all, and it's started to consolidate, and it's getting into this big tube here. So it brings it all, and over here too, same thing. Oops. Ooh, help, run for your life. I'm sorry. It's coming after all of this stuff. You see it? Bringing it back. And where is it going? It's going down to this way. And I can tell you it's going down because if you take the elevation, right there, that elevation is 165 meters. Down here is 143 meters. So it's dropping as it goes. All of this stuff is being drained out. And over here, this is biology. There's no way you can see this other than biology. All right, take your time and look at it carefully. These are abrupt transitions. And whatever it's doing, it's trying to detoxify that stuff. All right, that it's sucking off of the fish. You see that stuff? I don't know. That's not normal looking stuff to me. All right, so let's just assume that we're having some biological activity here. All right, so the earth wants to suck up all this stuff. So it consolidates into that one tube, runs it down here, and then starts to work the biology. Now look at the difference in what you have here. right? And as you come down, it changes. You see how you got to let it set it. They have blocks, blocky looking things that are like one color and it changes, but it doesn't change much. Trust me, it's not. This is changing drastically. You see it come and change. People are living right here on the edge of this. They're doing something there. I don't know what they're doing, but there's biology in this. And it keeps flowing down, flowing down, flowing down, flowing down. And it gets down to here, and look what happens down here. You see this end piece here? All of this? That's biology, my friend. That's not just hills and valleys. That's some type of a... it's an interface of what I don't know, but this is these little balls here. This is probably something growing here because there's some biological remnant that is still in here. But this is not, you know, that's, you can't explain this in any other way than biology. And believe me, I understand biology extremely well now. And this is biology, just as the fish has the exact same situations. And these are some kind of blood vessel-ish things leading down to these, you know, some kind of an interface to release it or absorb something or do something with it. But this is biology. All right. Now, what happened to the fish? The fish got the same deal going on. You can see the biology here. So all this stuff came down from Typhon, hit his fin, and dug right into here. And this is where this is all stuff trying to get sucked back, but it's just too late. This is hit, and there you can see right down inside the flesh of the fish. This is the artery. This big red tube is where the artery blood is. And all of these, I believe, are little things growing here because everything loves to grow in red blood. Red blood makes everything grow fabulously. And I believe that's what this is going on here. Even in the middle of the desert, it's growing here. Now, you see no growth whatsoever outside of the red blood. None. Zero. But you see a hell of a lot of it in the red blood. Now, coming out here, it starts to feed off all of these little vessels, blood vessels, and then they end up going into the capillaries, which are the ones that dump their contents into the black tubes, which, like here, you see here? They run all this down, and they still have some good stuff in them. They're feeding all this tissue down here, but after they use it all up, they dump it into the black tubes, and the black is the lymph and the veins. So we can see right into this guy's, you know, flesh, and see all this stuff happening. You see all the little capillaries down here? That's at the very end. They pinch it off, and you know what? Those regulate your blood pressure, I believe. So anyway, that's where things grow in the red blood. Send it thousands of times. You can buy blood meal. You can buy feather meal. That's why the feathers grow green, and the blood makes them grow green. Now, so it did get popped in this region here and got eaten into. Now, over here I showed where this guy's lymph system kicked in and came squirting lymph over here to try to remove all of this green stuff. And it couldn't do it. See the green stuff? That's the attacking stuff. This is a lymph from your body. And it's squirting it over here trying to grab a hold of all of this toxin to stop it from invading. And it's very, very toxic. And so it grabs it and brings it down this tube here. So here comes the lymph. It brings it over here, and it brings it down to the lymph node, and it kills the lymph node because it's just too overwhelming. You see all these entrances? That's where lymph is supposed to filter stuff through. And there are actually literally built-in filters here. You see that? It appears to me that they're supposed to keep the big nasty stuff out until it gets degraded enough to be able to work with it. And the filters keep those from invading. You can see the big chunks stay out here. The little ones are going in, but there's so much nastiness here that it's just killed it. That's why it turned black. And all of them right down the road. That one did too, because that's another lymph node. This one here did too. All of these right down the whole line, because there's, look at all of that was killed. They could not handle the influx of toxins. Right, there's a fish. And there's Typhon. And it said he was wrought and spit out all that flood water. Now that's in the biblical text. All right, I just showed you that the serpent cast out of his mouth all kinds of nasty flood waters after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away by the flood. And the earth helped the woman by opening her mouth, which I showed you that stuff being sucked up, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon had cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war and so forth. I think this could very well have happened already. Now, if it did happen already, what is the meaning of that? We need to put things back into context, because the revelations of real revelations, of material revelations now make everything suspect. Not necessarily everything suspect, but it makes everything reasonable to re-examine everything, research everything. That's what I do, is I research. People make these claims, I look at it, I say, does it hold water or not? And I have found that very little does. And the things I present, I think very hard to dismiss. I'm showing some pretty good evidence. Now, I believe I talked to you about Earth mating with the sky and having all these children, which were monsters, but they were still Earth's children. And then the gods came along, Zeus, and he killed all the giants. Zeus smote all the giants and destroyed them with thunderbolts, and all of them Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. Now here's the key that makes me think that all this is real. When the gods had overcome the giants, so the gods killed all the giants which were Earth's children, the earth became enraged and had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon. And he was a hybrid between man and beast. In size and strength he surpassed all the offspring of earth. His thighs were human in shape, and he was so huge he outtopped all the mountains. His head often brushed the stars. Now, there were 600 angels, which we would call them stars. Now, whether they were right around here and his head was right up amongst them, that's possible. But his head, they say his head often brushed the stars. They were hanging around up there watching. Maybe his head would brush up against them. I don't know. And then it tells how huge he was. And he changed after the gods. He was born to destroy these Zeus and his guys. All right, so, this is exactly what he looks like. From his thighs, he had human thighs. That's the only thing he had that was human, was the thighs. And down from there, he had coils of vipers, and they were absolutely enormous, emitted a loud hissing. His body was all winged, unkempt, hair streamed on the wind from his cheeks. Fire flashed from his eyes. Yes, exactly. There's fire coming right out of his eyes. Such and so great was Typhon, when hurling kindled rocks, he made for the very heavens. This is where he was attacking for earth. It brought forth Typhon so that he would attack the gods. So he's heading up to heaven to kill them all. He went with hissing and shouts, spouting a great jet of fire from his mouth. But when the gods saw him rushing at heaven, they were scared. They made for Egypt in flight. Obviously, they were scared. Being pursued, they changed their forms into those of animals to try to fool him. And Zeus pelted Typhon at a distance with thunderbolts at close quarters, struck him down with an adamantine circle, cut his throat. Now, then there's some things here I don't understand. I got to be honest, there's a lot of things I don't understand. But the things I do understand, I can see. And I can see Typhon, I can see his throat is cut, I can see his red flared eye right here. All right, his red fire flash from his eyes. I can see the jet of fire and flame and flood coming out of his throat. I can see the earth has tried to absorb it, sucking it all back up off of here. I can see the fish was killed or damaged, but they're both laying here, it appears to me, dead in the desert. However, they don't die. So what happens to their spirits? I don't know. But it said, woe be unto the earth, because this guy's not happy, and he's trying to create a lot of trouble on earth, and I think he's doing a good job. Now, anybody in their right mind would think Roger has lost his mind, but after seeing the evidence, there's no question in my mind, this is true. It's there. I know. I had a guy argue with me. You're going to have to explain how the blood would go to his head, and he had about 3 pages worth of equations about blood pressure and all. It's there. It's there. All right, and it was written about. It's not like this is a secret. It was there. They knew about it. It's on the maps. They talked about it. Apollodorus is exactly identical to what we have here. And they've changed their bodies into, in this case, a fish. Now, that changes a lot. I mean, a real lot. All right, there's a bunch of stuff in this particular thing I don't agree with is correct. From what I can find of Zeus, must have cut his throat. And Typhon is in the desert, not underneath Mount Etna in Sicily. It says Zeus cast Mount Etna in Sicily upon him, a huge mountain from which down to this day they say that blasts of fire issue from the thunderbolts that were thrown. So much for that subject. I think that's just one of these, that is to me a myth. He's laying there in the desert, so I don't care what they say back then. Now, Prometheus. All right, he was the one that actually created man. He molded man out of water and clay, and gave them also fire, which Zeus was not happy about. And he also stole a piece of meat from Zeus, I guess. And Zeus didn't like that. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find that. All right, here, let's pick it up here. The poem details another episode of trickery as Prometheus attempts to trick Zeus into taking a smaller cut of meat after a sacrifice. They ate a lot of meat. Prometheus also steals fire for humans, which Zeus didn't want him to do, prompting additional rage from Zeus. Hesiod details that Prometheus's punishment was to be chained up on a mountainside. His liver was eaten by eagles every day for eternity, while humankind's punishment takes the form of a woman, Pandora. All right, so we were punished by getting Pandora. This guy gets his liver eaten every day for eternity. But Hercules saved him, I think. And she had all these evils in her Pandora's box, and the only thing that was stuck back in there was hope. Okay, as well as the female race more generally was our affliction, whom Hesiod describes as a great affliction. Anyway, I think it was Hercules that got him off of the mountainside. All right, once again, there's things I don't agree with here because I can see the physical evidence to support me in my disagreement. I do agree Typhon was, no question whatsoever, he's laying in the desert. And it says, Hesiod goes on to describe the origin of a variety of other deities, monsters, and heroes related to or otherwise descended from the Olympians. So this is all coming down to genealogy of all of these crazy things. Now, Earth then bears a new rival to Zeus's power, and that's Typhon. He chased Zeus through the desert, or somewhere chased him, and Zeus apparently changed himself into a ram. The fish didn't make it. Zeus got away. Now, Typhonius, which is Typhon, whose father was Tartarus, which is hell, threatened by his power, Zeus does battle with him, eventually obliterating him entirely. That's where he cut his throat. Now, listen to this. Zeus has other children as well. He was having sex with everybody. I mean, he was after all the women. When his first wife, Metis, is pregnant with Athena, Zeus swallows her, fearing a child who might overtake him, and gives birth to Athena out of his head instead. It was said that she was born fully armored and developed and popped out of his head. Well, I see it totally different. What popped out from the great red spot was Venus, and it did act as an avenger to Earth to wipe out all the giants off of Earth. And it popped out not from a split. It popped out from a vagina, and I show that too. I'll show you again just so you understand. It's just the poem ends by detailing the genealogies of various other mythological characters. They're all real in my mind, including notable mythological figures who have both human and divine parents. And then it sort of tapers off from there. Okay, here it is right here. Prometheus molded men out of water and earth, gave them fire unknown to Zeus. He had hidden it in a fennel stalk. When Zeus learned of it, he ordered Hephaestus to nail his body to Mount Caucasus, which is in the Scythian mountains. On it, Prometheus was nailed and kept bound for many years. Every day an eagle swooped on him and devoured the lobes of his liver, which grew back by night. That was the penalty that Prometheus paid for the theft of fire, until Hercules afterwards released him, as we shall show in dealing with Hercules. So, you don't want to cross this guy Zeus. Prometheus, they said he would have a son that would rule with a rod of iron. That's pretty iron to me. Prometheus had a son, Deucalion. All right, Deucalion was Noah. He reigned in the region of Pythia, married Pyrrha, the daughter of Ephes and Pandora. So she was the daughter of Pandora, who was the first woman fashioned by the gods. That's the one that had the box full of evils. Now, when Zeus would destroy the men of the Bronze Age using Venus, Deucalion, who was Noah, by advice of his father Prometheus, constructed a chest. Having stored it with provisions, he embarked in it with Pyrrha. But Zeus, by pouring heavy rain from heaven, flooded the greater part of Greece. All men were destroyed, except a few who fled to the high mountains in the neighborhood. It was then the mountains in Thessaly parted, and all the world outside and Peloponnesia was overwhelmed, the whole world. But Deucalion, floating in the chest, who know again, this is Deucalion, floating in the chest over the sea for 9 days and as many nights, drifted to Parnassus, and there, when the rain ceased, he landed and sacrificed to Zeus. Now, they don't say anything here about them being the only ones that survived. Now, the whole earth was overwhelmed, yes, but the ones that would have survived this, the only way you could survive it is to be way up on the tops of the mountains in a cave. Because when Venus almost hit Earth, the whole atmosphere combusted. It was burning hot, boiling rain was coming down. The oceans were boiling. I don't know if the oceans were completely boiling, but it was like 10 billion atomic bombs going off at once. And that's why they're finding, I think it's like Mohenjo-Daro, they're finding nuclear fallout. Well, this is nothing more than a nuclear blast. When that hit our atmosphere, it's no more than a gigantic nuclear explosion. And so you would find that, and plus you'd find evaporated people just gone. Zip, they'd be just gone, like they were never there. Then zip, when this impact happened, it would have been absolutely catastrophic. So virtually everything would have died unless you were in just exactly the right spot, and that would be up on the mountains in a cave, so you wouldn't be irradiated and burnt up and have hot burning rain come on you and be drowned. That's my thinking. That's your only possibility. Now, so what happened after this? They sacrificed to Zeus, the god of escape. All right, Zeus sent Hermes, to him and allowed him, which is Noah, to choose what he would, and he chose to get men. He wanted men to rebuild things. At the bidding of Zeus, he took up stones and threw them over his head. The stones which Deucalion, Noah, threw became men. The stones which Pyrrha, his wife, threw became women. Hence people were called metaphorically people, laos, from los, a stone. We are stones. And Deucalion had children with Pyrrha. First Helen, whose father some say was Zeus. He was with all the women. Second Aphicani, who reigned over Attica after Cranus. And third, a daughter, Protogenia, who became the mother of Athelius by Zeus. So there's Zeus again. That guy was, he was moving right along. And then it goes, it's just phenomenal, this text, absolutely phenomenal. And this is written, most of it is from Hesiod, which is 800 BC, written because the daughters of Zeus, the Muses, came down and said, sit down and write. He said, I can't write. They said, sure you can. And they gave him a magic rod, they called it. And he went, and he just kept writing forever. Now, Ovid talks about these guys in Metamorphosis, being able to change themselves into anything they wanted, and that's why they were able to come down and have sex with human women. They could change themselves into really hot-looking guys, and that's exactly what they did. You never saw a fat, ugly-looking god. All right, this is one of the best books was ever written, and it was as well read as any book that there ever was, including the Bible when it was written. And it was written right at the time of Julius Caesar, about, they call it 8 CE, 8 of this common era now, AD. So what do we got? Metamorphosis is the name. What does metamorphosis mean? It means to change something from one thing to another thing, like a caterpillar changing into a butterfly. So how did they do this? All right, it's this was by the poet Ovid. He was unbelievable. And it was during the time of Julius Caesar. 250 myths that he incorporated into 15 books, 12,000 lines of text. Now, let me just get right to the main thing I want to tell you about. He was just fabulous. And he took everybody's works, and he went from right from creation up to Julius Caesar. You see this? Metamorphosis is one of the most influential works in Western culture, one of the most influential. It has inspired Dante, Boccaccio, Chaucer, Shakespeare. All right? It's a absolutely stunning work. All right, so what's the big deal about metamorphosis? Well, it's the transformation is a unifying theme on all of his episodes in the Metamorphosis. Ovid raises its significance explicitly, first thing, in the opening lines of the poem. And he says, in nova fert animus mutatus dicere formos corpora. I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Forms changed into new entities. Accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon a victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. They're turning creatures into the landscape, and they did. And they did it for fun sometimes. And that's how they had all these huge statues and things. A lot of those things are actually creatures that were turned into stone. All right, that's the transformation. They could do this at will. All right, now let me show you what it says, the types of transformation. All right, there's a great variety among the types of transformations take place from human to inanimate objects like stones and the Nile River or anything they want, statues and so forth. They could turn into constellations. They could turn themselves into animals. They could turn themselves into plants. They could turn themselves into animals or ants or funguses or mushrooms, into humans from mushrooms, from one sex to another, from, you know, male to female, from one color to another, any color you want. They could become pebbles. Metamorphoses themselves are often located metatextually within a poem, and they think it was all, they was just being silly. No, they could do that. They actually could do that. You know, if you want, come up to the Nag Hammadi text here. It's called the Nag Hammadi Library, Gnostic Society Library. Just look it up. And these are the secret sayings that Doubting Thomas wrote down that Jesus spoke when he was here walking around. And he's talking about when you seek, continue to seek until you find. Don't stop. When you find, you will become troubled. When you become troubled, you will be astonished. And then you will rule over the all. And then it also says in number 56 that the earth is a corpse. Jesus said, whoever has come to understand the world has found only a corpse, and whoever has found a corpse is superior to the world. All right, so it is a corpse, and there's no question about it. It's nothing but a corpse littered with bodies. And number 80 says it's a body, so I don't know. It's both, I guess. Now, here's where it says, Jesus said, we are light. If they say to you, where did you come from? Say to them, we came from the light, the place where the light came into being on its own accord and established itself and became manifest through their image. The only place that light comes on its own accord and just pops out of nowhere is the sun. If they say to you, is it you? Say, we are its children. We are the children of the sun. We are the elect of the living Father, the Son. If they ask you, what is the sign of your Father in you? Say to them, it is movement and repose. Light can move like crazy, and it can stop and do almost nothing. Light is nothing more than the same particles that are in everything. Light comes down and it hits plants and makes them grow. Dipole electron flood theory shows the black and the white. And that's always talked about as positive and negative of everything. There's always two sides to everything, especially when you get into the religious zone. There's the hater of God, and then there's a lover of God. So there's good, the bad, the evil, and the good. I mean, it's just that simple. And electron flood theory actually shows that we are made from these two black and white particles. Now, maybe one of the black particles takes over, and I don't know. But there's good and there's evil. And I'm telling you right now, as far as I can tell, evil can have a real bad outcome in the next go-around. And everybody dies, so whatever happens to you after that, I have no idea. All I'm doing is trying to understand that the things that I find that are point to something, point to Jesus being exactly as he was advertised. He was here to help us, to save us, and to look for him is what I would do if I were you. So I'm going to leave it at that. I love you all. Thank you. And this is crazy. It's very, very hard for anybody to accept and to take into their mind. But it's time to think it over. If it has no meaning to you, that's one thing. If it does, that's another thing. It's up to you. I'm looking at it in a very serious way to see if I can make heads or tails of it. And right now, I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty confused. Although all I can say is just what Jesus said. Last word basically is just look for me, find me, believe in me, and trust me. And that's what I'm going to do, Jesus. I'm on your side, buddy. I'm looking for you. I'm going to look real hard. And I wasn't a good guy, so do what you can for me, please, Jesus. Thank you all.